Is it remote?
Yeah, very good to see you.
Good, how are you? Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to try to get started. People can take their seats, please. We're very accustomed here in Geneva to talk about how busy we all are. So I've seen a room full of people makes me realize how the significance and importance that everyone places in this event. I have to say, the significance I place in it is embodied by the fact that I've left my High Commissioner on the podium, which in her first few days here in Geneva. So I feel like I've made a real commitment by being in the room as well. So very glad to be with you. We're of course very happy to welcome all of you to this pledging event, which gives the candidates for membership to the Human Rights Council for 2019 to 2012 term the opportunity to present their vision of membership and the priorities that they'll work on during their term. The event has been sponsored, and you'll see them around the room and next to me, by the International Service for Human Rights and Amnesty International. And we have, of course, very grateful for the co-sponsorship of the event by the permanent missions of Albania, Canada, Chile, Mongolia, and Senegal. And we'd want to thank, of course, the organizers and the co-sponsors on their behalf. We also want to thank at the outset the 4 interpreters who are supporting us pro bono today. They'll allow the candidates to deliver their statements in their language of choice. They're part of a global pool of interpreters who choose to donate their expertise for free to Amnesty International. So that's a wonderful practice. This event, as those of you who've been here before will remember, builds on similar events that have been held in New York for many years, the last 7 years, and here in Geneva since 2016. And the parallel event took place in New York last week. We certainly want to extend our deepest appreciation to the states and candidates that have accepted the invitation to join us today, namely Argentina, Austria, Bahamas, Burkina Faso, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Fiji, Italy, and Uruguay. We very much applaud their willingness to join with us in this conversation and to thank them for approaching this in an exercise of transparency and accountability. There are 18 candidates for the HRC this time, and 8 of those candidates did decline to participate, namely Bahrain, Bangladesh, Cameroon, Eritrea, India, Philippines, Somalia, and Togo. I'd note, I'm told by ISHR that last year, actually, between New York and Geneva, all the states that were candidates participated in at least one pledging event. So unfortunately, we've moved a little bit backwards in 2018, and we'd like to see that improve in the future. It'd be wonderful if all states that are candidates could join in an event such as this. The event aims to strengthen dialogue amongst all the stakeholders and deepen transparency. It recognizes that the Council's success depends on its members and their readiness to respond fully to the Council's mandate as set out in General Assembly Resolution 60251. It also recognizes the importance of engagement and full cooperation with all stakeholders in the Council's work, which in turn requires outreach, information, and an enabling environment. Events such as this are one essential component to achieving that type of engagement. Open and transparent national consultations by candidate states with civil society and the public at large are other ways that they can fulfill that commitment to transparency when they are aspiring to membership in the Council. Similar consultations on achievements during their membership and the challenges faced would also be desirable. So I've got very strict rules for today's session set forward by our sponsors to make sure that all of the candidates have equal time and that we're able to get through a very tight agenda in the amount of time. So each candidate in this session has been asked to outline the measures that it will put in place to fulfill their membership, their objectives of upholding the highest human rights standards in the promotion and protection of human rights and fully cooperating with the Council as set forth in 60251. There's been a lot of interest in this event, including on Twitter. To ensure the greatest participation of everyone, the states will each have a strict limit of 3 minutes to make their presentations. We're going to be assisted by official timekeepers. So I will thank you. I will not have to be quite as harsh. They will hold up signs to let you know when you have 1 minute left. And then at the end of the 3 minutes, I will cut people off. Not quite probably as strictly as the microphone in room 20, but I'll do my best to follow that example. So please try to keep within the time limits. Following that open segment, we'll open the floor to members of the audience to ask questions as well. And we'll take questions on Twitter to make sure that it's a balanced questioning. We'll make sure that not all questions go to one state. So just bear with us as we moderate the event to make sure that there's a representation of questions across the various candidates. And in the final segment, I will, at the end, hope to ask each candidate what they might want to see if they were on the council looking backwards, what they will have wanted to achieve during their tenure. So for those not present in Geneva, they'll have an opportunity to follow and participate in the event. And it will be webcast on ISHR's YouTube channel, and the tweets will be moderated and reviewed by our colleague Michael, and they'll be projected on the screen behind us, apparently. Exciting. And if you prefer not to be photographed, please indicate this to the photographer for this event. So we will, at this moment, turn to the candidate states, and I will invite, I'll turn first to one of our co-sponsors, Madam Adina Iron, the first Secretary of the Permanent Mission of Mongolia, who will also make some opening remarks. Please, Madam.
Thank you. As a traditional co-sponsor of Geneva initiative, I have the pleasure to deliver these remarks on behalf of Knesset Curriculum, the permanent representative of Mongolia, who unfortunately due to urgent engagement was not able to attend the event, this important event in person. So first of all, I would like to express my gratitude on behalf of the organizers and co-sponsors for the candidate countries for accepting the invitation and joining us today. As you may know, Mongolia has been elected to the Human Rights Council in 2015, and it's the first time we are serving the Council. Promotion and protection of human rights lies at the core of our national and international policy. We support the principles of non-selectivity, universality, and indivisibility of human rights, and firmly believe that promotion and protection of human rights should be based on the principle of cooperation and genuine dialogue. We view that the Human Rights Council serves as a vital platform of constructive dialogue and cooperation on promoting human rights. Nonetheless, the effectiveness and on-the-ground impact are fully reliant on the states. The commitment and engagement of member states, present and in the future, with the Human Rights Council, its mechanisms, including treaty bodies, special procedures, and the UPR, are crucially important to sustaining the credibility of the Council. As a member of the Council, we attach great importance to the ongoing discussions on strengthening the Council. We consider that the Human Rights Council strengthening shall primarily focus on enhancing its contribution to the promotion and protection of human rights, and moreover, that any agreement reached on long-term efficiency measures shall be adopted by consensual decision. Finally, I would like to wish you success in your future endeavors towards our shared values and responsibilities to promote and protect all human rights and fundamental freedoms. I look forward to your constructive engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks again to all of the co-sponsors for their help on this event. So we will now turn to each of the candidates. I let you know that they were all asked to prepare statements responding to the basic question, which is General Assembly Resolution 6251 provides that members elected to the Human Rights Council shall uphold the highest human rights standards in the promotion and the protection of human rights and fully cooperate with the Council. Could you outline the measures you have put or will put in place to meet these objectives both domestically and internationally? So that's the context of each member state's submissions. They'll have 3 minutes, as I noted, to answer. And I'll note that we are going in alphabetical order according to the French alphabet. That's the level of detail that we brought to the arrangements and protocol for this event. So on that basis, I have the pleasure to give the floor to the ambassador from Argentina, please.
Muy buenas tardes a todos ustedes. En primer lugar, quisiese agradecer y felicitar a quienes han organizado este evento porque da la oportunidad para tomar contacto con justamente la sociedad civil, que es la que, en nuestro juicio, debe monitorear, estar atenta a las conductas de los gobiernos. En muchos casos logra también generar políticas que son modificadas en función justamente de ese escrutinio social que las entidades vinculadas a la sociedad civil realizan con respecto a muchos países. Yo quisiera señalar que desde la restauración de la democracia en Argentina, la promoción de los derechos humanos ha sido una política de Estado que subyace a todas las políticas públicas y que refleja las principales preocupaciones de la sociedad argentina. En 1994, una reforma constitucional otorgó rango constitucional a los principales instrumentos internacionales de derechos humanos, fortaleciendo el compromiso con la protección y promoción de los derechos humanos en nuestro sistema legal. A nivel internacional y regional, Argentina ha promovido activamente y ha participado en la negociación de instrumentos de derechos humanos. Nuestro país también ha cumplido con las obligaciones asumidas en relación con la presentación de los informes periódicos a los órganos de supervisión y el examen periódico universal, así como los relacionados con el sistema de peticiones individuales. Con el fin de fortalecer y consolidar las políticas nacionales públicas sobre los derechos humanos, en diciembre del año 2017, Argentina lanzó el Plan Nacional de Derechos Humanos 2017-2020, que se basa en los compromisos internacionales asumidos por nuestro país, incluida la Agenda 2030. Sus pilares son la inclusión, no discriminación e igualdad, la seguridad pública y no violencia, las políticas de memoria, verdad, justicia y reparación, y acceso universal a los derechos humanos y la cultura cívica, así como el compromiso con los derechos humanos. La Argentina cree firmemente que es necesario seguir fortaleciendo el sistema universal de promoción y protección de los derechos humanos, por lo tanto desea contribuir con determinación y firmeza al Consejo de Derechos Humanos a fin de mejorar aún más la protección y las normas internacionales. Con la esperanza de recibir el apoyo total de todos los Estados miembros, la Argentina se compromete a nivel internacional a fortalecer la promoción y protección de todos los derechos humanos, civiles, políticos, económicos, sociales y culturales, de conformidad con los principios de universalidad, interdependencia e indivisibilidad. Fortalecer los vínculos con organizaciones internacionales de género para que puedan contribuir al empoderamiento de las mujeres y la prevención y erradicación de la violencia de género y muchas otras cosas más que no podemos decir en este momento por su
Thank you very much, and I appreciate Ambassador Frodor's commitment to helping us keep the time. My apologies for interrupting. I'd next like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Austria, Ambassador Tische Flisselberger. Would you please take the floor?
Hi, the Presidency, Excellencies, colleagues, and friends. Very happy to come to this opportunity to give you an introduction to Austria's pledges and commitments, and afterwards have a chat on how we hope to operate if elected to a second period in the Human Rights Council. Our first period there was in the years 2011 to 2014, and I gather nothing has become easier since. We all know that the UN have been built on the three pillars of peace and security, human rights, and development for all. And we firmly believe that these three pillars are intertwined and mutually dependent. And as a small country, we firmly believe in the multilateral structures and the rules-based system, which has served the international community very well in the last 70 years, in spite of one or the other friction which we might have had to cope with. Having said that, we cannot help realizing that there are tensions growing in many regions and uncertainties caused by the shifts in the international architecture, which makes our multilateral system come under increasing pressure, politically and financially, from different sides, and which also reflects on the Human Rights Council. This is regrettable, given the interdependence of the respect for human rights and the issue of peace and security and development. The previous High Commissioner reminded us time and again but the human rights violations of today might well trigger the conflicts of tomorrow. So there is an early warning function in the human rights. In our view, there is no meaningful alternative to sorting out common problems by dialogue, coordination, and international cooperation. Austria would like to make a contribution based on our tradition of mediation, bridge building, and reaching out to other cultural, ethnic, ideological, and religious communities. Promoting effective multilateralism and strengthening the international rules-based system are key pillars in our foreign policy. As a member of the Human Rights Council, we would continue to proactively reach out to partners from all regions. We would like to listen to all points of view, try to increase mutual understanding, and establish strong, pragmatic, and cross-regional cooperation. The Human Rights Council is not perfect. It is a reflection of the diversity that exists, but also the challenges at the global level. There is need for all of us to demonstrate leadership. Austria would like to share the responsibility for doing all this, and we see room for improvement in the working methods, in the efficiency, the agenda, the annual work program, the duties and commitments, the delivery of capacity building and technical support, and the fulfillment of the mandate to prevent violations. We remain committed to promoting progress in these areas. And we are proud to have hosted 25 years ago the Vienna Conference, the Vienna World Conference on Human Rights, which confirmed that human rights are universal, indivisible, and interdependent. With regard to our thematic priorities, we would continue with those which we have always focused on, like upholding the rights of minorities, freedom of speech, safety of journalists, human rights of internally displaced persons, human rights of administration of justice. And as the ambassador of Argentina, I would have more to say. Maybe we can get into this later on in the question time.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and again, apologies for the short time period. I now wish to proceed to give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Bahamas, Ambassador Sharon Brennan-Hay.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much. Let me thank you, Amnesty International, and the International Service for Human Rights and the co-sponsors for arranging this really important event. We participated in the event in New York, and we're pleased again to participate here at the one in Geneva. Engagement with human rights should take place at all levels and at all times, and we welcome this opportunity to have this informal, meaningful dialogue on objectives to promote and protect human rights for all. The Bahamas has had a long and proud history of democracy and the rule of law, being the third oldest parliamentary system in the Western Hemisphere. As a post-colonial Caribbean small island development state that fully appreciates and promotes the primacy of human rights, the Bahamas has maintained focus on the foremost goal of its national development, the peace and prosperity of its people. This commitment is manifest in several principles upon which our membership in the Human Rights Council will be based. Most important of which is the centrality and integration of human rights in all aspects of national governance and international cooperation. In this regard, we feel that inclusivity, the ability for all states to have a seat on the table, is paramount. And it is the intention of the Bahamas to bring a new perspective to the Council and to assist others in doing the same. We are a first-time member to the Council, a first-time member to any human rights body. We have served on bodies related to gender before, but this is the first time on the Human Rights Council, or even the precursor to the Human Rights Council. We are a Caribbean SIDS candidate. We have been endorsed by the CARICOM region, and we intend to bring the voice of CARICOM to the Council. The Bahamas also attaches particular importance to Agenda 2030. Cognizant that efforts to fully implement the Sustainable Development Goals are also efforts to further the protection and promotion of human rights. The Bahamas has undertaken several initiatives nationally and regionally to fulfill SDG implementation and looks forward to its Human Rights Council membership as another stage through which the relationship between SDGs and human rights could be strengthened. Last week, the Bahamas, along with all of the HRC candidates, received the scorecard from ISHR, which outlined inter alia the Bahamas' cooperation with UN human rights mechanisms. Our main objective within and outside the Council is to not only increase our score, but to facilitate that of other states and the Human Rights Council itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I realize that the more states that are willing to participate in this event, the more time constraints we're under, but I think that's a good time pressure, and we appreciate the states living up to it. I'd now like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Bulgaria, Ambassador Kostadinova.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to start my introduction by thanking the organizers, the co-sponsors of this pledging event for the excellent opportunity to present our views in the area of human rights. The Republic of Bulgaria presents for the first time its candidacy for the membership of the UN Human Rights Council. You can find information about our vision, our priorities, and our commitments in the materials in front of you. That's why I'm not going to repeat them. But I just would like to draw your attention to some facts answering your question, Madam Chair. Bulgaria is fully committed to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and has adopted a wide range of legislative, institutional, policy, and administrative measures to fulfill its obligation on human rights. We have ratified 7 core international human rights instruments and are continuously engaged with timely reporting on their implementation. 2 members of the treaty bodies have been elected as Bulgarian candidates. They are both women and representative of the non-governmental sector, which demonstrates the importance we give to cooperating with the civil society and involving them in the government's policy. The country participates actively in the Universal Periodic Review process and has also extended a standing invitation to all special procedures. In 2013, a national coordination mechanism on human rights was established. Its members are ministers, heads of state agencies, as well as non-governmental organizations. The mechanism considers accession to new international instruments and recommends amendments in the domestic legislation. It is aimed to improve coordination among public authorities involved in the implementation of human rights. There is also a mechanism for one-time payment of compensation to all individual complaints for which damages has been recommended by the treaty bodies of the UN Universal Instruments on Human Rights. Bulgaria has a strong record of prioritizing promotion and protection of human rights while chairing different organizations. For example, the Committee of the Ministers of the Council of Europe 2015-2016 and the Presidency of the Council of the European Union in the first half of this year. Bulgaria calls for further EU engagement within the UN, including in the work of the HRC. We focused on some topics: the need to strengthen the promotion and protection of social, economic, and cultural rights, the rights of the child, in particular on the possibilities of inclusive education for children with disabilities, ensuring the participation of young people in the decision-making process, and the protection of migrant and disadvantaged children. Third, the dialogue of gender equality, and last but not least, countering stereotypes and prejudices against persons belonging to any ethnic, religious, linguistic, or sexual minority group. In conclusion, in the framework of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, Bulgaria sees progressive international human rights policy as a way to mainstream human rights and to reinforce its message at the global level. We rely on your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and I have to congratulate both you and the Ambassador of the Bahamas of coming in right under time. So also good time management skills, if that's relevant for participation in the council, which I think it is, given that in that room you only have 2 minutes, right? I'll be glad now to hand the floor to the distinguished representative of Denmark, Ambassador Morten Jespersen.
Thank you. You're putting on the pressure. I'm proud to represent the Danish candidature to the Human Rights Council. We have, over the years, been very engaged as an observer to the Council, but Denmark has never been a member of the Council. The protection and promotion of human rights are at the core of both our national and foreign policies. And our work on human rights is guided by the principles of dignity, dialogue, and development. On dignity, Denmark works tirelessly for gender equality and the protection of the human rights of women and girls. A cornerstone in this regard is the protection of the rights of all persons to decide over their own lives and bodies. Denmark is a driving force in the fight against torture. For several decades, we have presented UN resolutions on the fight against torture. We engaged in the cross-regional Convention Against Torture initiative through government-to-government dialogue. We work for universal ratification and better implementation of the Convention Against Torture. Indigenous people's rights is a priority for Denmark. We are a global frontrunner in advancing their protection in the national and international level. On dialogue, as a small country, we must seek partners. We work through cross-regional dialogues and compromises. We put substance before politics and engage with all stakeholders. And we see informal dialogue as a bridge to tackling contentious issues, finding common ground and ensuring progress. We work for universal participation and increased diversity in the Council. We are among the top contributors to the Trust Fund for participation of small island developing states and least developed countries. We prioritize a genuine and open dialogue with civil society on human rights, protection in Denmark and internationally. This approach will not change. Finally, on development. When it comes to development, Denmark is a committed partner. For 40 years, we have fulfilled the UN target of providing 0.7% of our GNI in official development assistance. Advancing on human rights, good governance and rule of law are long-standing Danish priorities. We are committed to engaging in an inclusive and transparent process to bring more effectiveness and efficiency in the Council. And we are eager to put much more focus on how human rights obligations can be translated into local reality. The work and independence of the High Commissioner is a cornerstone of the efforts to promote, protect, and implement human rights. Her office is a trusted and treasured partner. Over the past 5 years, Denmark has quadrupled its voluntary unearmarked contribution. To sum up, Denmark stands up for fundamental rights and freedom. We engage to protect and promote, and we are ready to increase our engagement as a member of the Council for the coming 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Very timely. I would now like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Fiji, Ambassador Khan, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Chair, and I'll try to keep within the time. May I say, first of all, that if Fiji is voted into the Human Rights Council, that this will be the first time that a Pacific small island developing state becomes a member of the Council. And that in itself is a compelling reason to support Fiji's candidacy. It's very important for the credibility of the Human Rights Council that it is inclusive and representative of all regions. And so therefore, to have a Pacific small island developing state on the Human Rights Council really is a very important factor for the Council itself. Also, Fiji is very aware that really the test of candidacy is our ability to translate human rights from Geneva to Fiji. And in that regard, we recognize the important role of the Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission in that translation and working with civil society on the ground to really roll out the work that is done in Geneva. And in particular, we recognize the intersectionality of rights. How does poverty and gender work together, for instance, in creating a different form of lack of access to justice, for instance? This is something that we are very interested in, and we recognize that intersectionality is a very important part of the way that discrimination works. Also, we have a very strong focus on climate change. Climate change is one of the most important factors for all of the islands of the Pacific, and of course for Fiji also. And as the president of COP23, Fiji recognized this and really pushed to the forefront the important role of people in this conversation about climate action. And so therefore this conversation between climate change and human rights is something that we see unfolding as we speak in Fiji, where both climate change and disasters exacerbate existing inequalities. And we really think it's important that this conversation be amplified here in Geneva and translated to work on the ground so that we recognize that actually climate change and disasters have a transformative ability. And lastly, I would say that to everyone in the world, in the international community, it's really time to give the Pacific a voice in the Human Rights Council. And really, it's very, very late to be even saying this, but it is time to give the Pacific a voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And we will now turn to the distinguished representative of Italy, Ambassador Cornetto, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank ISHR and Amnesty International for convening this pledge event, and the distinguished colleagues and representatives of civil society for being here with us today. Protecting and promoting human rights is at the heart of Italy's policy and action at national and international levels, as also enshrined in its constitutional charter. Italy's action is founded and anchored on the principles of universality, indivisibility, and interdependence of human rights. Italy actively works to strengthen the United Nations human rights system, closely cooperating with the Human Rights Council and its instruments and bodies, including the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Italy is committed to enhancing the protection and promotion of human rights in all bilateral and multilateral contexts, including the European Union, the Council of Europe, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. As a member of the Human Rights Council, Italy will continue with determination to promote an open, inclusive approach to human rights, focusing on ownership by local actors and on cooperation with civil society organizations. Italy will keep working to support the role of the Human Rights Council in line with the principles of universality, impartiality, objectivity, and non-selectivity. Italy ratified all major international conventions on the protection and promotion of human rights, including all major international labor organizations conventions. Italy actively promoted the establishment of the International Criminal Court on the belief that the cause of peace can only be served if those responsible for the most serious crimes bearing international impact are prosecuted and brought to justice. At regional level, Italy ratified the most important human rights treaties and fully recognizes the jurisdiction of the European Court of Human Rights. Italy was considered under consecutive cycles of the Universal Periodic Review and its mechanism, which it firmly supported. Since the last Periodic Review in 2014, Italy further enhanced the protection and promotion of human rights at the national level. Italy has an effective partnership with the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and fully cooperates with the special procedures of the Human Rights Council, to which it has issued a standing invitation. Italy submits in a timely and true manner its periodic reports to the treaty bodies of the United Nations on the implementation of its human rights obligations under international law. Italy is committed to promoting and protecting all human rights, including civil and political rights, as well as economic, social, and cultural rights. As a member of the Human Rights Council, it will engage actively and work constructively and with determination to continue to meaningfully streamline human rights promotion, protection, conflict prevention, conflict resolution, long-term process, peaceful conflict settlement, further improve the effectiveness of UPR process, support special procedures established by the Human Rights Council and foster participation in interactive dialogue, prevent and combat international community, support prompt response to human rights emergencies, further promote human rights education and awareness, raise campaigns on human rights and fundamental freedoms, enhance the role of civil society, in particular in the formulation and implementation of human rights policies and programs, including early warning and prevention, support participation of civil society organizations in the Human Rights Council, establish a key channel for collaboration with civil society organizations. Thank you, Madam.
A valiant effort appreciated by everyone in the room except the interpreters, I believe. Thank you so much, Ambassador. We'll next give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Czech Republic, Ambassador Cara. It's good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I'm pleased to be here in such a good company, and I would like to thank all those who helped to organize this event. I would like to start by asserting that the Czech Republic supports a strong international human rights system with the Human Rights Council in its heart. We recognize the Council as a major safeguard of the human rights standards around the world. We take our candidacy very seriously. In the room, you can find a brochure with our pledges, which makes my presentation somewhat easier, and I can focus on just a few priority issues. First, we promise to stand behind the impartial and independent Office of the High Commissioner, Special Procedures, and treaty bodies. The Czech Republic was one of the first countries to issue a standing invitation to all thematic special procedures of the Human Rights Council. Second, the Council must remain efficient. We are committed to assist the efforts to reform the Council, rationalize its work, streamline its activities, and boost its impact on the ground. Third, we are very interested in exploring how the preventive role of the Council could be enhanced. Fourth, we regard strong civil society as a fundamental precondition of functioning democracy. In the Council, we are determined to further promote freedom of expression and freedoms of assembly and association through the respective resolutions. Fifth, we will continue to speak for the effective implementation of the right to participate in public affairs. We will present a resolution on equal participation at this session of the Council and will follow up on it. On domestic front, let me simply state that we are not perfect. But what is important in our openness is our openness to debate, to working domestically with suggestions and feedbacks provided by the Council, UPR, and other mechanisms. The Czech Republic is a state party to 8 of our 9 core UN human rights treaties and pays a lot of attention to their effective implementation on national level. Our goal is now an early ratification of the optional protocol of the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities and the Istanbul Convention. For many years, we have been running programs designed to promote equality and non-discrimination of Roma and support their social integration, political participation, and empowerment. And the same holds for challenging gender stereotypes in the society and creating equal opportunities for women and men. True, we still have some homework to do in both these areas. We attach great importance to children's rights. And finally, we promise to sensitize Czech business to human rights. I think.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and thanks as well for putting up with the apparent construction that we're going to have to listen to a bit, but I hope it isn't too distracting for everyone in the room. I'd next like to invite the distinguished representative of Uruguay, whose timely arrival allows him to speak. Ambassador González Arenas, please.
Gracias, Presidenta. En primer lugar, muchas gracias y mi reconocimiento por haber organizado esta reunión. Es realmente sumamente interesante la interacción con representantes de la sociedad civil, conocer sus preocupaciones y también escuchar a los colegas de los demás países sobre cuál es su enfoque y su perspectiva en su participación en el Consejo de Derechos Humanos y en el rol que tiene el Consejo en el Sistema Internacional de Protección de Derechos Humanos. Sobre Uruguay, me cuesta identificar un área de la agenda de derechos humanos donde Uruguay no haya estado tradicionalmente asociado, promoviendo, liderando, contribuyendo a hacer avanzar esa agenda a nivel internacional. Es una vocación de nuestro país, que como país chico hemos sido siempre muy celosos del respeto al derecho internacional y a la institucionalidad internacional. El derecho internacional es el escudo de los más pequeños, forman parte de los derechos humanos de uno de los pilares de la política exterior del país. ¿Cómo lo hemos expresado? Internacionalmente somos miembros de todos los convenios que hay en materia de derechos humanos a nivel internacional universal y de sus protocolos adicionales, así como de todos los instrumentos hemisféricos a nivel interamericano, y participamos activamente de las actividades interamericanas, así como participamos activamente del Consejo, de los cuales somos miembros fundadores. Tenemos una invitación abierta a todos los mecanismos desde hace muchísimo tiempo, pero no alcanza. Hoy todo el mundo tiene una invitación abierta a los mecanismos. Lo importante es que cuando los mecanismos solicitan ingresar al país, el país dé todas las facilidades y establezca términos de referencia abiertos y con compromiso de derechos humanos para que esos procedimientos ingresen al país. Eso es lo que ha hecho Uruguay. Los derechos humanos están en el corazón de todas las políticas públicas en el país y ahora quisiera dedicar unos breves momentos a decir lo que hemos hecho internamente. Porque nuestra actividad internacional promoviendo los derechos humanos en el mundo tiene que tener un correlato interno de cómo Uruguay ha trabajado para alcanzar los estándares más altos en materia de protección y promoción de derechos humanos. Prioridad absoluta desde principios de los años 2000, cuando una crisis económica afectó el país y elevó la pobreza al 36% en la sociedad uruguaya, ha sido la política de erradicación de la pobreza y la indigencia. A partir del 2005 se creó un Ministerio de desarrollo social y se implementaron políticas sociales que se han mantenido hasta el momento y han permitido bajar la pobreza prácticamente y desterrar la indigencia y bajar a un 6% de la pobreza. En género, en la erradicación de las discriminaciones, en tutela de los derechos de los afrodescendientes, en diversidad sexual, Uruguay ha hecho enormes esfuerzos de los cuales hoy podemos sentirnos orgullosos y que motivan nuestra aspiración de ingresar al Consejo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. It's not the best part of my job because the conversation is very interesting. I congratulate you all on putting forward a lot of very important information in a very short time. We'll now turn the floor to the audience and participants to be able to ask questions of the candidates. We will ask you to keep your questions concise to allow as many people to be able to ask questions as possible. And I'll point out that you can ask a question of a general nature that you'd like any or all of the states to answer, or you can ask a question that's directed to a particular candidate. I'll collect several questions from the floor and then go back to the candidate countries for the responses. Please, who would like to go first? Please, in front. Yes, you.
Thanks very much indeed to all involved in organising this, and particular thanks to all of the candidate countries who've taken the time to come before us. Australia is toward the end of our first year on the council, and it's been a real learning experience. So I would like to also point to the value in states being on the council for the first time, because I think it does strengthen your own approach to your domestic processes. When we came on the council, we encouraged others who were joining the council with us to undertake a pledge that would see them cooperating in good faith with the office, with the council, with its mechanisms, to address human rights concerns on their merits, to engage with the council in a spirit of self-reflection, and to work closely with civil society. A simple question, could I just ask whether all of the candidates have thought about whether or not they too would sign up to this pledge? And I have copies of it here in case people's memories are short. Thank you very much. A simple yes or no would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had someone on the side here, please. You might need to find your way to a microphone if you could. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, I appreciate the organizers for this important event. We all have collective responsibility towards promotion and protection of the human rights without any discrimination. It is possible when member states may not pick and choose human rights on political considerations. Let me put the example of the Kashmir, which has fallen a prey to this approach. People of Indian occupied Kashmir are suffering a lot.
Excuse me.
How your country
Excuse me,
deals,
please.
how your country
Excuse me,
deals the OHCHR report on Kashmir that the High Commissioner called yesterday must be implemented.
Thank you. I'd like you to ask a question, please, and you didn't introduce yourself. If you could do that as well, please. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we'll move on. I saw a question in the back, please, John.
Yes, thank you. John Fisher from Human Rights Watch. And thanks to those candidates who are here. We would have liked to have asked the Philippines if they would cooperate with OHCHR to facilitate investigation and reporting to the HRC on the thousands of reported extrajudicial killings in the country. Since they're not here, if I can put a question to Italy. Yesterday, the High Commissioner indicated she would like to send an assessment team to the country to look into reports of increased violence and discrimination against migrants. The Interior Minister of Italy yesterday replied, "We don't take lessons from anyone, least of all the UN, which has again proved itself to be biased, pointlessly costly, and badly informed." So the question to Italy is whether they will cooperate to facilitate the High Commissioner's request submission. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions in the room, please?
Norway.
I'm sorry, I didn't see. Oh,
No.
Iceland, please,
And
sorry.
Norway later.
Thank you. As you may know, Iceland has only just taken up a seat on the council, joining the council for the first time. I'm interested in asking some of the candidates, all of them if they want to respond to the question, but the question is this: how important do you feel it is to, because I understand most of the races now are clean slates, so how important do you feel having competitive races is, or a rotational basis for membership of the council? Thank you.
Thank you. And Norway, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to those candidate councillors for taking the time to be here with us and share their pledges for the Candidate Chapter Human Rights Council. We have noted with concern reports on reprisals against those individuals who are seeking to cooperate with human rights mechanisms. And I have a general question for the candidates, how they feel that their membership in the council can respond to these kind of reprisals.
Very good, thank you. I think we'll go back to states now, unless there's an urgent need. We have 3 general questions and 1 specific question for Italy. Perhaps, Ambassador, if you don't mind, I'll turn to you first since you had the specific question, and then I'll recognize any of the states that want to come in on the general questions. Please put up your placards and I'll know you want to come in. Please, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to quote Foreign Minister Enzo Moavero. He made a statement earlier this morning on the declaration made by High Commissioner Bachelet yesterday. Italy found unappropriate without and unjustified the declaration by the High Commissioner of the Organization for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, relating with Italy's lack of responses and Italy's lack of respect of human rights of migrants. Since many years, Italy has been committed in rescue operation and in people in the Mediterranean Sea. More than 300,000 people, migrants, have been rescued in the Mediterranean Sea, and more than 700,000 migrants has been received in Italy since then. And Italy was alone in dealing with this challenge for a very long time before being supported by the European Union and by the international organizations. Coming back to your specific question, of course, Italy will be welcoming any mission by the Human Rights High Commission, as it did in the past. I just like to remind you that in 2016 there was a mission by the High Commission of Human Rights Office, and it was a very successful mission. We have no doubts that any mission by the Human Rights High Commissioner will be very successful as well, because it will be easy to understand for the High Commissioner the efforts made by Italy to face the migration challenge and migration crisis. And it will be very easy to understand that the so-called human rights violations in Italy are a speculation, a fake news. There have been episodes, of course, but Italy is a democratic country since 1948. It has all the instruments. Has committed itself in no international fora. Has in its constitutional chart, it has a principle of respect, promotion, and defense of human rights. And the law enforcement community are very active in pursuing, prosecuting anyone held responsible of violation of human rights or racism, xenophobia, discrimination, or any act of violence against migrants. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I see several states want to respond to the 3 general questions. Each state will have 2 minutes for your response, and the 3 questions, just a quick reminder, were about the pledge for membership raised by Australia. Iceland had asked about competitive elections and clean slates, and Norway wanted to hear from states about how they would engage on reprisals. I saw Denmark's placard first. I'll go to you, please.
Thank Thank you so much. Australia, Norway on civil society. Thank you for the advice on what face you when you become a new member. The dialogue with civil society, we believe, from around the world is extremely vital. Civil society, we believe, provides an important information to the council, which should be used and their voice should be heard. It is also crucial to provide a safe space without reprisals for interaction with the UN on human rights issues, to safeguard the independence and unimpeded voices of civil society. So for that reason and many more, then we strongly opposes any act of reprisals or intimidation that supports the work of ASG on clean slate. That is the brief remark to Iceland. Thank you for this really very relevant question. We would very much like to see more candidates being present for their seats. It's obvious that the credibility of this council and the election would increase if that happens. But we also see that it doesn't happen, and we also see that around half of the members of the UN have never been a member of the council, and that actually open for thinking regarding if clean slate can help some to come who would not come, then it's actually helpful. But on the other hand, if it keeps countries away, then it's definitely not the way to go. But in general, we like competition, and we would like to see more competition. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn next to Fiji, please.
Thank you very much. If I may, in response to Australia, our commitment to the Human Rights Council mechanism is already actually in our pledges. It's pledge number 2, and we would be happy to sign the pledge. Secondly, in relation to reprisals, as I said, Fiji really acknowledges the important role of civil society in implementing the commitments we make, and also the role of accountability that civil society has. And we are also in the core group on the resolution for reprisals against civil society groups for cooperating with UN agencies. So we consider this to be a most important role of the council and an important role of a member of the council to defend the role of civil society. And in relation to clean slate, look, there's no doubt about it. Clean slate makes things a lot easier for a candidate. There's no doubt at all. And obviously, if we were all competing with each other, we probably would do a lot more lobbying. But from the point of view of a small island developing state, clean state actually works, acknowledging the fact that we will be scrutinized once we become members. And we know that the scrutiny is very important for the role of a member. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come back to you, Ambassador, and go to the Czech Republic first.
Thank you. On Australia and on the pledges, I can just say that this is just a regular practice in our system. It's not. It doesn't have to be a pledge. I mean, we simply do that, and so we fully align with this. On clean slate and Iceland question, I don't think we have any official position on that, but personally, frankly, I don't feel very strongly about clean slate. As Denmark, I mean, we definitely welcome more interest among the member states for the membership of the UN member states, or the membership in the council. But we also see difficulties, at least on the side of small states, and so clean slate can be helpful. More competition is healthy, but again, the situation has the limits. Coming from the East European group of states, we also see other limits to possible competition, and I think we are not happy with the clean slate we have, and it definitely doesn't diminish the value we attach to this candidature and to the membership On reprisals, I'll just refer to my statement an hour ago in the Human Rights Council, and it was where I mentioned, I mean, the reprisals as one of the big issues in front of the new High Commissioner. We've been traditionally very much concerned and involved in reprisals. We've been co-sponsor and of the resolutions and so on and so on. So reprisals is a very important issue for us, and we will definitely cooperate on that.
Great, thank you very much, Ambassador. I'll turn the floor to the Ambassador of Uruguay, please.
Muchas gracias. Sobre la pregunta de Australia y de Islandia, mis colegas han hecho expresiones que yo comparto, por lo cual yo quisiera concentrarme en el tema que a nuestro juicio es absolutamente central, que es el de las represalias. Las represalias que se ejercen van en contra del principio capital de funcionamiento del Consejo, que es la cooperación entre los distintos actores. Los estados con el sistema con los estados, la sociedad civil, la oficina del alto comisionado. Cuando se ejercen represalias sobre representantes de la sociedad civil, se está atentando y se está debilitando el principio de la cooperación con el sistema, por lo cual eso tiene toda una serie de multiplicadores negativos para el funcionamiento del Consejo, entre ellos de eficacia del Consejo. Menos se coopera con el sistema, menos eficaz es el sistema, tan simple como. Uruguay cree que no se ha hecho lo suficiente. Si bien nosotros integramos el grupo con Ghana, Fiji, Hungría, Irlanda, y hemos promovido activamente esto, no se ha hecho lo suficiente y creemos que en la próxima membresía debemos poner el tema de las represalias más alto en la agenda del Consejo y tomar acción para que los estados se abstengan de efectuar represalias y penalicen y no dejen impunes los actos de represalias. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I'll turn to the Ambassador of Argentina, please.
Muchas gracias. Trataré de ser sintético en primer lugar con respecto a lo comentado por la colega de Australia. Aprovecho para leer una parte que no pude leer en su momento en cuanto a los derechos, y es vinculado a lo siguiente: trabajar conjuntamente con la sociedad civil y organizaciones no gubernamentales y con la oficina para promover políticas públicas que garanticen el respeto por los derechos humanos. Todos estamos absolutamente de acuerdo con este. Segundo, con respecto a la propuesta de Islandia en materia de rotación, también estamos de acuerdo, creo que hay que hacer reformas sustantivas en ese sentido. Con respecto al tema vinculado a la preocupación por los represalias, efectivamente la Argentina tiene una profunda preocupación, compartimos el consentimiento expresado recién por nuestro colega de Uruguay. Además, la Argentina en su momento copatrocinó la resolución sobre los defensores de los derechos humanos y además fue parte de la intervención conjunta sobre intimidación y represalias contra las personas que cooperan con las Naciones Unidas, realizada durante la 34ª sesión del Consejo de Derechos Humanos, y consideramos que este es uno de los temas fundamentales que la Argentina tiene en cuenta en materia de derechos humanos.
Thank you very much. The Ambassador of Austria, please.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, on the question by Australia, we're happy to look at the pledge. As far as I gather, what it contains orally, there should not be any problem at all to take this up. For example, we have in Austria a long history of really institutionally working together with civil society, with wide networks. Various ministries are in constant contact. They feel that the civil society are somehow the eyes and ears of the government at the grassroots level. I have myself, a member of many years, been coordinating in Austria against human trafficking, and we work intensively with civil society. And also the other elements like self-reflection based on merits. That's what the whole mechanism invites us to do, not least the UPR, that we have always tried to answer as best we can. On the question by Iceland on the competitivity, we didn't chicken away from competitivity in our group. There was at some stage another candidate who then gave up for another candidature, but we think it's good if it's competitive, but the main thing is that the council remains representative for the various regions and traditions, and that people really stick to that pledge, just to make it credible. Lastly, on reprisals, of course, we reject them. Of course, we know that people who suffer these reprisals need our assistance the most, which is why we have always, in general, supported any resolution in that area. We have always cooperated as best we could with the Special Representative Gilmore. We're now considering financial support for him, and we are adamant not to let these things, not let countries get away with reprisals. We will pick them up if necessary and automatically. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to the ambassador from the Bahamas, please.
Thank you very much. I'll also be brief because I agree with much of what's been said already, but with respect to Australia, we are happy to look at the pledge. We have not seen it, but much of what you said are the three pillars that you have shared are issues that we also share. With respect to civil society, we have a long history of engagement with civil society in a range of areas. So I think looking at the pledge and joining it would not be a problem. So please do share it with us. On reprisals, like everyone else, we cannot stress sufficiently the importance of human rights defenders, that they should have a voice. They ensure accountability for all of us, so we should work towards the protection of their right to have that voice and to make us accountable. They have a key role to play in society, and we may not always want to hear what they have to say, but they must say it. So we must protect the rights of defenders to say what they have to say. On the clean slates versus elections, I am not sure the issue is necessarily that one is better or the other, because you can have a clean slate and not necessarily have the right candidates, and you can have an election and the right candidates may also not be elected. But the important thing, I think, as member states, each one of us, is to make sure that we support those candidates that we think would bring the best representation, the best diversity, the best inclusivity to the council, and that we encourage others with whom we are engaged to do likewise, so that we can have the best council possible. If I thought a voting or clean slate would do the job, we could have a voice, a clear opinion on one or the other, but I don't think it's that straightforward. And like Austria just said, to make sure that those who are elected keep their pledges while they are members of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'll turn to the ambassador from Bulgaria, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the question of Australia, I was happy to see the pledge, but I think that all the candidates made the pledge to cooperate with the UN human rights mechanism. I think the core here is the cooperation with the civil society, and this is also the core of the question of Norway. Our cooperation as future members of the Human Rights Council with the non-governmental organizations. So here I would like to underline that Bulgaria highly values its work with representatives of the civil society, both nationally and internationally. NGOs on national level, NGOs participate in all working groups, national councils, and other mechanisms dealing with human rights. They receive financing to implement different projects, run shelters, hotlines, and social services. On international level, we are concerned by increasing pressure towards all civil society representatives and human rights defenders in different parts of the world. We deem as unacceptable reprisals and attack against human rights defenders for cooperating with the UN. Bulgaria sees freedom of expression as a fundamental part of any society leading to good governance and accountable institutions. So as a future member of Human Rights Council, we shall promote regional cooperation on human rights and work to build capacity and strengthen NGOs and other civil society organizations. We maintain that all states should engage with and consider the views of civil society through both formal and informal mechanisms in the development of policies and legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and I'll return to the Ambassador of Italy, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On a clean slate, We are, of course, in favor of competition among candidates, but we do not believe that imposing the competition would automatically guarantee the best candidate will be elected in the Human Rights Council. On the other hand, competition implies a big effort on behalf of the candidates in terms of active campaigning, and the forced competition could make it impossible for smaller states to compete on a level playing field and get elected. On Reprisals, should either be elected, it will continue to actively support human rights defenders and step up its efforts against all forms of reprisal with a view to creating a safe and enabling environment in which human rights defenders can operate free from hindrance and insecurity. And Italy will support the activities of the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights defenders. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate all the states coming in on those questions. We do have from the Twitter feed a number of questions that are directed specifically at states. So what I will do is read through all of these questions, and then we'll go back to the first one so that you'll have a little bit of time to compose your thoughts. So we have a question for Argentina and for Uruguay, which was, if elected, how will you contribute to improve the human rights situation in Nicaragua and Venezuela? There was a question for Denmark, which was, how will Denmark, as a member of the Human Rights Council, support human rights defenders and their right to work for promotion and protection of human rights without retaliation or fear? We had a question for Bulgaria, which was, how will Bulgaria provide regional HRC leadership on issues of concern for the Council, including relating to the human rights situations in Belarus, Azerbaijan, and Russia? And there was a question for the Bahamas, which was, would the government of the Bahamas be prepared to take stronger positions relating to other Caribbean member states and through the human rights special procedures relating to lack of respect and protection of human rights for the LGBTI community? So those are the questions that we've gotten in for now. I realize we put you all on the spot by asking you to come in and answer them. But if we could potentially, Ambassador from Argentina, could you please take the first shot? Thank you.
Efectivamente, hay algo que yo quisiera señalar como prefacio a esta respuesta. Y este prefacio tiene que ver con lo siguiente. En 1648, cuando se firmó la paz de Westfalia en el Palacio de la Paz de Münster, se forjó el principio de no injerencia en los asuntos internos de otros estados. Y eso muchas veces es utilizado para esconder las violaciones a los derechos humanos. Nosotros creemos en el principio de no indiferencia entre los estados. Y como tal, justamente en los casos de Venezuela y Nicaragua, hemos alzado y alzamos la voz todos los días. Y no solamente en ese caso o en esos casos, sino en todos aquellos países donde se violan los derechos humanos, porque nosotros fuimos precisamente víctimas de una violación dramática y criminal en materia de derechos humanos. Hace minutos, justamente, la Argentina pronunció una intervención en el marco del Consejo en nombre de más de 35 países, instando a Nicaragua a cesar con estas violaciones reiteradas en materia de derechos humanos, y estamos promoviendo precisamente una resolución sobre el caso de Venezuela, que afecta no solamente a los venezolanos, sino a toda la región. De modo tal que, en ese sentido, nosotros desde ya estamos trabajando duramente en esto, y por cierto que si somos miembros del Consejo de Derechos Humanos, lo haremos todavía con más empeño, con más fortaleza y con mucho más rigor y firmeza. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ferratori, and I'll turn to Ambassador Reyes, please.
Gracias, Presidenta. Para empezar y para que quede bien claro, Uruguay, en su política exterior, reprueba y condena cualquier violación de derechos humanos en cualquier parte del mundo. Ese es un principio general que se aplica a cualquier parte del mundo. Sobre el caso de Nicaragua y Venezuela, evidentemente, y lo acabamos de decir hace breves minutos, Nos preocupa mucho la espiral de violencia, los actos de violencia, la confrontación, la fractura política que se da en los países y que aparezca violaciones de derechos humanos absolutamente condenables. ¿Cómo se sale o cómo se contribuye a una salida? Uruguay tiene como principio favorecer las vías pacíficas de resolución de conflictos internos o internacionales. Ese es un principio cardinal, inderogable de la política exterior de Uruguay. Por lo tanto, Uruguay, cuando opina sobre situaciones de determinados países, se cuida de que sus pronunciamientos o sus acciones contribuyan a una salida pacífica y no a lo contrario. En forma alguna, Uruguay aceptaría que sus pronunciamientos o sus acciones alimentaran el ciclo de violencia en un país. Finalmente, el problema de los venezolanos, nicaragüenses o uruguayos o paraguayos o cualquier parte del mundo, básicamente lo tienen que arreglar las personas que viven en ese país y que interactúan en ese país. Por lo tanto, nosotros favorecemos siempre el diálogo nacional y ayuda de la región para canalizar las fuerzas hacia un objetivo de acuerdos políticos que permitan salir de la crisis. De otra manera, la crisis se retroalimenta y se hace más grande. Y ahí el principio de la intervención, comparto. No indiferencia, pero tampoco intervención en los asuntos internos de los Estados, y eso es también un principio de la política exterior de Uruguay. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and I'll turn the floor to Ambassador Jespersen from Denmark.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe there was a question from Twitter on Denmark and human rights defenders, so a few words on that. If elected to the council, we will continue our tradition of promoting and defending the space for civil society. That includes human rights defenders to engage in local, national, and international debates. We will work for civil society representatives to be included in decision-making processes. This would include speaking up against points of order to prevent NGOs from speaking in the Human Rights Council. And an additional piece of information: Denmark is part of the European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights. It's a recent initiative enhances the protection of human rights defenders. This initiative offers grants for relocation of defenders under threat, grants for capacity development, as well as for institutional strengthening of the organizations hosting human rights defenders. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'll now turn to the Ambassador of Bulgaria, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Bulgaria emphasized the role of the Human Rights Council as an important early warning tool and platform to discuss and react to human rights situation in different countries. Of course, we're deeply concerned about the consequences of the situation in many countries, including the one that were mentioned in this question. Bulgaria will support common efforts to bring grave country situation to the attention of the UN, and will ensure that they are addressed in a proper ways, demanding accountability and ending impunity. As a regional leader, as it was mentioned in the question, I will start with the first country, Belarus. Bulgaria closely monitors the human rights situation in the Republic of Belarus, and we are concerned about the lack of clear indications of the readiness of the executives to impose a moratorium on the execution of the death sentences as a first step to abolish the death penalty. In our view, the need for an open and fair public debate over these issues is of utmost importance. In its contact with the Belarusian authorities, Bulgaria has always expressed its principal position against the death penalties. The freedom of expression, media independence, freedom of association, peaceful assembly, and non-interference in the work of human rights defenders, also civil society organizations, freelance journalists, and non-governmental organizations, are some of the necessary steps for improving the human rights record of Belarus. Speaking of Russia,
The increasingly restrictive environment for human rights and civil society organizations in the Russian Federation remains deeply concerning. Restriction continue on the freedom of, association, assembly and expression, media freedom, freedom of religion and belief. But as a whole, I would like to underline that our approach will be to ask for an open and fair public debate on all the issues in this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also got in a question for Austria. So I'll read that out, just give you a little bit of time to respond. We have not yet received any specific questions for either the Czech Republic or Fiji. So I'll entertain those questions if questions come up on that front, just to share the speaking time today. For Austria, the question was, when is Austria intending to submit its overdue report to the UN Committee Against Racial Discrimination? And so I'll give you a moment to think, and I'll turn the floor to the Ambassador of the Bahamas, please.
Thank you very much. Let me start off by saying the Bahamas' constitution guarantees the fundamental rights and freedom of all persons. And that is the perspective that we will bring to the Council, the protection of human rights of all, and that includes the LGBT community as well. Before getting to the specific response to the question, I should point out too that the Bahamas was one of the first countries in the region to make that consensual relations private between adults of the same sex, and that has been lawful in the Bahamas since 1991. We also had a constitutional referendum in 2016 where the transgender community was able to hold a press conference without interference, and they expressed their views openly on the proposed amendment to the Constitution. We have constant dialogue. I have myself in particular had dialogue with the LGBT community. So this is a perspective that we bring as a council member, the promotion and the protection of all human beings, every man, woman, child, whatever their race, orientation, or gender. With respect to the Caribbean community, as I said, we have been endorsed by CARICOM. So when we speak with our CARICOM colleagues, we speak with that perspective in mind. We also have to be respectful of what they're doing in their own countries. But we will encourage and advocate for the promotion of respect for human rights for all persons whenever we speak with our Caribbean colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And if I could turn to the Ambassador of Austria, please, or her esteemed colleague.
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, thank you, Peggy. Just to introduce myself, I'm Gerto from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And since it's a quite technical question, I take the floor on this issue. First of all, thank you for reminding our obligation to the person who has asked the question. We are fully aware about our commitments and definitely that we did not yet fulfill our reporting obligation under the convention. It seems that the committee, we are always lacking one report behind, since at the last UPR, it was the committee, it was the Convention on Enforced Disappearances, which we were reminded by Sierra Leone, and a very, in fact, useful recommendation which we have received from the Sierra Leone, and we have in the meantime fulfilled this commitment, and I can assure you that I think the fact that we are going to be, hopefully, I would say, member of the Human Rights Council is going to give a new, good impetus for us to finalize very soon the work on the report, which is in fact ongoing and which is I hope very soon going to be finalized. On the issue on racism and intolerance and such, I would like to just recall that we have presented last year our interim report to ECRI, the Committee of the Council of Europe dealing with racism and intolerance, which is already dealing with some of the substantial points related also to CERD. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And it looks like I have a question just coming in for Fiji. Do we like the technology? One moment, please. Okay. Oh, it's got a lot of acronyms. Ambassador, get ready. When will the state commit to ratify international agreements, including the ILO Convention on Indigenous and Tribal People, the CMW,
the optional protocol on to CRC, and the second optional protocol to the ICCPR.
So a question about ratification of various international agreements. And to give you a moment to think, or would you like to come in, please?
Thank you very much. We have in fact ratified the ILO Convention on the Rights of Indigenous People already, so perhaps the questioner wasn't clear about that. We just ratified ICCPR and ICESCA, and in the best traditions of the world, perhaps we should learn to walk before we run in relation to the optional protocol. So just ratified, I think 2 weeks ago, ratified ICESCA and ICCPR, and of course we are open to considering the optional protocols. And just on that subject also, to say that the responsibility for report writing on all the conventions we ratify, we absolutely accept and know this is an important role for us to show how we implement our commitments under these conventions, but it's not always easy for a developing country to keep up with reporting commitments, but we are trying very hard.
Thank you very much. Michael is writing away. Did we? Right. There are questions for states that aren't here. Unfortunately, they're not here to answer them, so I don't think that will allow us to finish. But perhaps we'll ask ISHR to tell us the questions just so we're aware, and perhaps those present can ask those other candidates when they see them. Please.
Right, so there was a question from Twitter on the Philippines, which was, if the Philippines is re-elected to the Human Rights Council, how do you ensure compliance to various human rights mechanisms, including possible UN-led independent international investigations in the future? There was also a question for Bahrain, which was, Bahrain features prominently year after year in reports on reprisals. If elected as a member of the HRC, will they commit to end this egregious practice? And then there was a question for Eritrea, which reads that, given that cooperation with HRC mechanisms is a membership obligation, will Eritrea commit to cooperating with the Special Rapporteur on Eritrea established by the HRC?
Thank you very much, Michael. I'll open the floor up one last time for any questions from the floor for our last remaining state that hasn't had a question, the Czech Republic. If there are none, I don't feel unloved. There are none that I see. So the last item on the agenda is for me to go back to each of the candidate countries and ask them what I think is a really good question. When we do our strategic planning, I often think this, what we'd like you to do for each candidate is to think back down the line. You've completed your term of membership. We're in early 2022, and you're looking back over your achievements as members of the council who were elected this year. And we would like to know, what do you think will have been achieved because of your membership? So that's the question for each of the states. Candidates, and I think I'm supposed to give you 1 minute, although we actually have enough time that I could give each of you 2 minutes. So I'll be a little liberal with your 1 minute, if you'd like. And my instructions are to reverse the order that we originally allowed each of you to have the floor. So that means, Ambassador, you get to go first, please, from Uruguay.
Gracias y muchas gracias por esa pregunta tan desafiante. Dejo volar la imaginación hacia el 2022 y me imagino un consejo que discute absolutamente de todos los temas, en forma objetiva, en forma imparcial, no selectiva, un consejo que tiene como prioridad el diálogo y la negociación en un enfoque de cooperación entre los países, cooperativo, no confrontativo, y en ese mundo ideal la sociedad civil participa activamente junto con los estados no ejercen represalias, y a nosotros nos parece que la oficina del Alto Comisionado tiene que tener todavía un rol más importante porque tiene la garantía de la independencia, de la neutralidad solidaridad y los países debemos apoyarla cada vez más. En definitiva, un consejo que sirva mejor el interés colectivo de la comunidad internacional de proteger los derechos humanos en todo el mundo, ahí donde se produzcan, y evitar que la política internacional influya en forma determinante en cuáles son las prioridades del Consejo. Gracias.
Thank you very much. I will turn the floor to Ambassador Cara from the Czech Republic, please.
Thank you. Yes, we would like to contribute to the number of areas of operation of the Council. We'll be more than happy to see some advancement in our areas like participation and public affairs, and whatever follow us up this September, the debate, resolution, and the participation guidelines which have been published. We would like to see progress in freedom of assembly and association, where we are burden sharer and co-sponsor of all the resolutions. And we will see enhanced Council's ability to prevent, human rights violations and problems. But above all, we would hope to see Council more effective. There's a review scheduled for 2021, if I'm not mistaken, and so it will be critical time to rethink, and reinvent probably a lot of things. We hope to see Council with stable and healthy financing, the Council which is more respected and which is strongly felt by its impact on the ground. We'd like to see less reprisals and more genuine cooperation with the Council, OHCHR, and human rights mechanisms. We also want to bring something back home. We hope to use our membership for raising awareness in the area of human rights in the Czech Republic, at least in order to underpin our efforts to implement all the UPR recommendations and enhance our readiness for the next UPR cycle, I think.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I should say that when we do this exercise in our office, when we're doing strategic planning and trying to figure out when we're at the end of a project, will we have achieved what we want? I usually ask both the question about what you will have achieved, but of my team, we always ask the question, and let's assume we failed, why did we fail? So if you think you're in the hot seat now, realize that it could be worse. We could be asking you what would happen if you failed and why, which would probably be a much more difficult question for states to answer, I believe. So with that note, I will turn to the Ambassador of Italy, Mr. Ambassador Coronado, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our aim during our mandate would be to foster dialogue and to continue promoting an open, inclusive approach to human rights, focusing on ownership by local actors and on cooperation with civil society organizations in order to promote human rights and achieve better results worldwide. Promote and support measures that will increase the effectiveness and efficiency of the Human Rights Council with the overall aim to preserve and further enhance its unique role and value. Our priorities in the Human Rights Council will be, in particular, the fight against all forms of discrimination, the rights of women and child, universal moratorium on the death penalty, freedom of religion or belief and protection of people belonging to religious minorities, the fight against trafficking in persons, the rights of persons with disabilities, the protection of cultural and religious heritage and human rights defenders. And we hope that in the early 2022, thanks to Italy's membership, we will achieve better results on these issues. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Ambassador Khan, please, from Fiji.
Thank you. I hope that we will have more conversations about the way that civil and political rights affect social, economic, and cultural rights and vice versa, the relationship between the two sets of rights. I hope that we will see the Council as being more inclusive, particularly regionally. I hope that we will have better conversations as a result of being more inclusive Human Rights Council on the prevention agenda. We shouldn't wait for countries to become basket cases. we should really work really hard at capacity building and supporting countries to do the right thing. And so the prevention agenda of the Council is a very important focus for us. We hope that there will be more conversations about climate change and human rights and the importance of the voices of people in climate action. We hope that there will be a greater focus on capacity building and technical assistance for smaller developing countries. And if we fail in all of this, it's because you haven't listened to Fiji.
Very good. Thank you very much. Ambassador Jespersen from Denmark, please.
Thank you so much. When in 2022, looking back, we will have strived to use appropriate council mechanisms addressing critical country situations. We will also have worked for timely action of the council with a view to upholding the highest standards of human rights. And we will have pushed the bars, we hope, for the normative work of the council, advancing important thematic areas of human rights, including human rights of women, prevention of torture, and indigenous people's rights, just to mention a few. Finally, we hope to look back at a council review in 2021, which ensured renewal and reform. In 2022, we hope to lead a council working more efficiently and effectively, with input from relevant stakeholders. A council which stays abreast, action-oriented, and relevant. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And we'll go back to the other side and back to Ambassador Kasavinova from Bulgaria, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The world is facing increasing challenges with worsening security and human rights situation. We are witnessing attempts to erode the universal human rights standards, and we shall fight to preserve these standards. In 3 years' time, we expect a more effective council where all stakeholders have an equal right to express their views and fight for their causes. Bulgaria further expects that we will see an increase in the allocated funds and a more efficient distribution, taking into account the gravity of the human rights situation on the ground. We hope the Council could provide for a smoother and more constructive dialogue between the High Commissioner for Human Rights and all concerned states, shifting the narrative to cooperation rather than accusation. Finally, aimed at politicization and budgetary restrictions, we should always remember that we are here not only to judge and discuss, but also to find working and acceptable solutions to human rights challenges around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I'd be glad to turn the floor to Ambassador Brennan Haylock from the Bahamas, please.
Thank you very much. Looking back to early 2021, we have addressed some of this in our pledges, but in a nutshell, I think this is a unique and historic opportunity for the Bahamas to be on the Council. So we hope at the end of that period, we will see increased diversity in the international discourse on and consideration of global human rights, and especially that the Council will be more attuned to the interests of small states. Just to share very quickly, we opened our office in Geneva 5 years ago. Prior to that time, we followed the work of the Human Rights Council through the lens of the Third Committee. What a game changer it has been to actually be here in Geneva and to participate in the work of the Council the way we are right now. It's a deeper relationship. So at the end of our membership on the Council, we expect to see an even more deep relationship between the Bahamas and the Council, and as well as we hope that through our membership, we will bring more benefits to the region about the importance of human rights. It is our hope that this marriage, which starts with our election to the Council, will change both the Bahamas and the Council and all the stakeholders engaging with us for the better. We will have joined the Council, but the Council, we hope, will also become more attuned to the best practices and challenges of the small states such as the Bahamas. We also hope that at the end of that term, there will be improved capacity for countries to participate in the Human Rights Council. We hope that we will open the door for others to follow suit. And we hope there will be better reporting and human rights instruments. better reporting and also more on-time reporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I'll turn the floor to Ambassador Jessie Fisselberger from Austria, please.
Thank you very much. It's always interesting to ask hypothetical questions. Just realized if this question had been asked 3 years ago, few candidates would have been able probably to describe the situation we're in now. Having said that, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and for us, that means that the Human Rights Council can contribute to concretely improve the lives and the living conditions of people. Certain concrete initiatives that we have participated in, like fighting child mortality, have done exactly that, or also our initiatives on minorities, and we really hope that this main function of the Human Rights Council will work out. We also realize that the Council needs reform. We have all discussed this a lot. There are a lot of ideas around. It needs to become more effective. We probably have to deal with fewer subjects, but at the same time make sure that we really tackle the worst situations, the problems which deserve the most attention in order to make the Council credible. And we would want to do this in a spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding. We would hope that our initiatives would lead a little further. We had not long ago a conference in Vienna, which was 25 years anniversary of the VDPA. And what we focused there on a lot was the new trends, the new tendencies. So we need to say, what do human rights mean in the age of globalization, of urbanization, of digitalization, of demographic change, and of climate change? So these are the questions to address, and if all goes well, we are hopefully in 3 years' time a candidate to be re-elected or on the way to it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I'll give the floor back to the person who started us off and give you the last word, Ambassador Forador from Argentina, please.
Muchas gracias. En primer lugar, la Argentina se ve en el año 2022 con la necesidad de haber contribuido enfáticamente al examen periódico universal, a su fortalecimiento, entendido que es una herramienta muy importante y objetiva del sistema universal de promoción de derechos humanos. Pero también entendemos que tiene que haber una mucho más enfática cooperación técnica y apoyo a todos los estados en esta materia de derechos humanos. También entendemos que habría que empoderar al Consejo de Derechos Humanos para actuar con eficacia en situaciones urgentes que involucran violaciones graves de los derechos humanos, lograr también un refuerzo de los procedimientos especiales y garantizar la libertad absoluta de los titulares de mandato, y también fortalecer determinadas situaciones relacionadas con el género, el empoderamiento de la mujer, la no discriminación, la igualdad, el derecho a la verdad, derecho de las personas mayores, derecho de las personas con discapacidad y personas con LGTBI, la abolición de la pena de muerte, entre otros, y algunos temas que son para nosotros centrales y que no entendemos cómo 97 países suscribieron, por ejemplo, la Convención Internacional para la Protección de todas las personas contra desapariciones forzadas, y solamente 58 estados los han ratificado. Hay que hacer campañas en ese sentido y tenemos que tener una sinergia, por ejemplo, con la Unión Parlamentaria Internacional para que promuevan en los respectivos parlamentos del mundo los convenios que todavía no han sido ratificados, y son muchos, y que han sido en su momento firmados. Por eso creo, y por eso puedo visionar al Consejo para que tenga más firmeza para exigir mayor respeto por los derechos humanos en el mundo. Pero que también tenga prudencia para traducir esa exigencia en cooperación con los países que así lo requieran y que tengan menor desarrollo. Pero también necesitamos otro ingrediente, que es la imaginación para mejorar los mecanismos de los derechos humanos sobre la base del consenso, pero también tenemos que tener un ingrediente fundamental, la audacia para vencer los temores, para perseguir las buenas causas, enfatizando el principio de los derechos humanos como principismo antes que el pragmatismo, que generalmente se vincula a priorizar las relaciones económicas sobre las relaciones humanas.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And thanks to all in the room for putting up with the timekeeping and for doing such a great job with the short periods that we were able to allot you today. A few concluding remarks. You heard the ambassador of Bahamas earlier reference the scorecards that ISHR has prepared. There are copies of those, unless they've all been taken, in the entrance to the room. To complement those scorecards, our friends at the International Service for Human Rights are going to compile questions to all the candidates, and they will send those questions to the candidates with the invitation to respond in writing so that they can publish that on their website. So if you weren't able to ask your questions today, or you think of new ones, or your candidate wasn't represented here, you can feel free to submit your questions still to our colleagues at ISHR by Twitter or email, and they'll, by close of business tomorrow, they would like them so that they can get that up on the website quickly. And of course, you can submit your questions directly to all the candidates by Twitter or by email, and they will pull those things together. I'd really like to thank all of you, obviously the team who's put in so much time and efforts, the co-sponsors who are here, but most fundamentally, of course, the 9 of 18 candidates for the Human Rights Council who subjected themselves to this rigid format and put themselves forward and gave us such a good insights into the reasons why you're running to be on the Human Rights Council and the commitments that you're willing to make regarding your membership. I think it's a wonderful example that's set, and I'm really hoping that all of you, as well as the other states present in the room, can bring forward the message of the idea that a forum like this is an important one to have in advance of an election, and to encourage even better participation in this event for next year. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you very well. That's good.
Yeah.
Next time should be a little bit more, but we have one more than the New York. There were 8 in New York.
You know, there should be consequences. Thank you.